Welcome to The Silent Verdict.
With Clara Monroe and Elias Gray.
Deleted data and unanswered questions, what really happened on the night of January 29th.
It's a question that keeps coming up, especially with this digital evidence.
Today, we're really zeroing in on something critical. The forensic analysis of Jennifer McCabe's phone. Specifically, what happened after February 2nd, 2022.
Right, because that's when her phone was analyzed and some interesting things started to surface.
Exactly. We're talking discrepancies, deleted info. It's pretty puzzling. Our source for this is basically a cross-examination transcript.
Yeah, focusing on a law enforcement witness discussing this very data.
And our mission here is simple. Unpack what was found on Jennifer McCabe's phone, figure out when people found out about it, and what all this deleted stuff might actually mean.
Well, the first thing that jumps out is just the timeline of getting the information out. It's complicated.
How so?
Okay, so the defense first gets what's called a full file system extraction report. This is from McCabe's phone back on May 31st, 2022.
Okay, sounds straightforward enough. Full report.
But see, that's the thing. It later came out that this report, well, it wasn't actually the full file system. It was maybe filtered.
Wait, really? So they called it full, but it wasn't?
Apparently not. The defense didn't get the actual complete forensic image, the whole digital copy, until October 2022.
October? That's like, what, 4 or 5 months later?
Yeah. Think about that. They're working on the case for months with what they thought was everything, but it wasn't. You have to wonder what impact that delay had.
That seems problematic, to say the least. Operating on incomplete info for months. And you mentioned things got even trickier with disclosures. Let's talk Google searches.
Right. So beyond the initial report issue, there were 3 specific Google searches from McCabe's phone.
Okay.
These weren't formally given to the defense until April 24th, 2023.
Hold on. 2023. That's almost a year after that first full report.
Exactly. A significant delay. And the way they were disclosed is also interesting. It was in a report that was basically responding to the defense's own experts' findings.
So they only handed them over because the defense's expert pointed something out. It wasn't proactive.
That's how it appears based on the timeline presented. It suggests the info might not have surfaced otherwise, you know.
Wow. Okay, so what were these searches? They must be important if they're causing this much discussion.
They're definitely grim. The initial report, the one created back on May 4th, 2022, from her phone data, it showed 2 searches in quick succession early that morning.
What did they say?
The first one, logged at 6:23.51 a.m., was how long TI died in CIKSD. Seems like typos in there.
Okay, weird phrasing. And the second?
Just seconds later, at 6:24 or 37 a.m., another search. How's long to die in cold? Again, misspelled.
How long to die in cold? At around 6:24 a.m. That's chilling.
It is, and the timing gets even tighter. That first search, the 6:23.51 a.m. one,
Yeah.
it happened less than a minute after Jennifer McCabe made a phone call to Brian Albert. That call was logged at 6:23.000 a.m.
Whoa! A call to Brian Albert, then immediately searching how long to die in cold. What are the odds?
It's certainly a proximity that the defense focused on heavily, and they apparently tried to show evidence related to that call.
What kind of evidence?
It seems they had, or wanted to present, a call log entry showing that specific 6:23 a.m. call to Brian Albert. But here's the kicker.
Let me guess. It was deleted.
Bingo. The witness, under cross-examination, confirmed that there was a record for a call at 6:23 a.m. from McCabe's phone, but it was marked as deleted.
Marked as deleted. What else did the record show?
It showed a 0-second duration and an unanswered status.
Okay, so a deleted, unanswered call to Brian Albert at 6:23.00 followed less than a minute later by that search. And this deleted call, was it in that late April 2023 report with the searches?
Yeah, no. According to the witness, that specific deleted call record wasn't in the April 24th report.
Seriously? Where was it then?
The witness stated it was included in a different, even later report, dated May 9th.
This is getting confusing. Reports coming out piece by piece, months, even a year later, revealing deleted calls and searches right at a crucial time.
It definitely paints a picture of information trickling out, rather than being presented all at once.
And you mentioned something about the witness maybe letting something slip. About deleted calls.
Yeah, it was subtle. During the part of the cross-examination about browser artifacts, like website history and searches, the witness seemed to mistakenly refer to a deleted phone call log.
While talking about browser stuff.
Exactly. It could have been just a slip of the tongue, of course, but it raised eyebrows. Like, maybe the topic of deleted calls was more on their mind during the analysis than they were letting on.
Interesting. A little Freudian slip, perhaps.
Uh-huh.
Makes you wonder. Now, who is Coco? That name came up regarding deleted calls too, right?
Yes. Coco was the contact name Jennifer McCabe had saved for her sister, Nicole.
Okay, her sister. What about the calls?
This discovery came even later, it seems, tied to using an updated version of the forensic software Celebrate, version 7.61.0.12.
And this newer software found something the older one missed.
It appears so. It uncovered 2 more deleted calls, both to Coco, her sister.
Also deleted? What were the times on those?
The first was at 6.07.42 a.m. It lasted 9 seconds and was marked as answered.
Answered. Okay.
The second was just after, at 6.08.17 a.m. 7 seconds long, also marked as answered.
So let me get this straight. Between roughly 6.07 and 6.25 a.m., we have potentially 2 deleted calls to her sister, both answered, then a deleted, unanswered call to Brian Albert,
Right.
immediately followed by 2 Google searches about dying in the cold, all clustered together.
That's the timeline that emerged from these various reports and the testimony. A flurry of activity, much of it deleted, in a very tight window.
What explanation could there be for deleting answered calls to your sister right before all that? It seems odd.
It does raise questions. The defense also apparently tried to point out other calls marked as unanswered with 0 duration, but the witness couldn't really verify where that specific list came from.
So more potential inconsistencies, but harder to pin down? It feels like trying to reconstruct something from fragments.
Very much so. Digital forensics can be like that. But the defense didn't stop with McCabe's phone. They drew a comparison, didn't they?
Right. They brought up Karen Reed's phone. What was the point there?
To create a contrast, they established that Karen Reed's phone was seized much earlier, on January 29th, 2022, the day of the incident.
Okay. And the data access?
There was a bit of back and forth. The witness first said they couldn't get into it by February 4th, but then corrected themselves, saying access was actually gained on January 31st, 2022. Pretty quickly then.
January 31st. Got it. And they asked about later searches of her phone, too.
Yeah, the defense brought up Michael Proctor searching Reed's phone in August 2022, and that the defense had requested a full forensic image in January 2023.
Did they get it?
They received a redacted version, according to the testimony.
Redacted. Okay, but the key comparison was about deleted stuff, wasn't it?
Exactly. That was the main thrust. The defense asked point blank about deleted calls on Karen Reed's phone from January 29th.
And the answer?
The witness stated quite clearly that no phone calls were found to be deleted from Karen Reed's phone from that date.
No deleted calls at all?
None reported by the witness for January 29th. They did identify calls Reed made between midnight and about 4:30 a.m. that morning.
Who did she call?
Exclusively her parents. 2 or 3 times, according to the witness.
Okay, calls to parents, nothing deleted. What about Google searches on Reed's phone in that early morning window?
The witness testified they didn't believe Karen Reed did any Google searches between midnight and 5:00 a.m.
So a very different picture from McCabe's phone in those crucial hours. No deleted calls, no early morning Google searches.
That's the contrast the defense was drawing.
But were there any deletions on Reed's phone at all that day? Even later on?
Yes, but with caveats. Because the report they got was redacted, the witness couldn't say for sure how many Google searches Reed might have deleted on the 29th overall.
The redactions again?
Right. However, the witness did volunteer that they found a few deleted Google search artifacts.
A few? From when?
From the afternoon of January 29th. But they couldn't provide specifics, like the timestamps or what the searches were about.
So some deleted searches later in the day, but nothing like the early morning activity seen on McCabe's phone. And crucially, no deleted calls on Reed's phone.
Correct. The witness specifically reiterated seeing no deleted calls on Reed's phone. That distinction seemed important.
Okay, let's try to unpack the arguments bubbling under the surface here. What's the defense really trying to get at by highlighting all this?
Well, the implication seems pretty clear, doesn't it? They're likely suggesting that the delays in getting the data, the sheer amount of deleted data on Jennifer McCabe's phone, especially those specific searches right after the call to Brian Albert, plus the deleted calls to her sister, that all this casts serious doubt on her version of events. It suggests maybe she had something to hide, something she actively tried to erase from her digital footprint right around the time the body was discovered.
In contrasting it with Karen Reed's phone.
Exactly. By showing Reed's phone had no deleted calls in that same critical period, they're painting McCabe's actions as unusual, maybe even suspicious. Why all the deletions on her phone, but not on Reed's?
Makes sense as a defense strategy. How would the prosecution likely push back against that?
They'd probably emphasize any inconsistencies in the witness's memory during the cross-examination, maybe suggest the witness was being led or confused by the defense attorney.
Try to downplay the witness's certainty?
Perhaps. They might also argue the delays were just, procedural hurdles, not intentional obfuscation. Maybe argue that the initial report being called full was a mistake, not deception.
What about the deleted searches on Reed's phone later that day?
They could seize on that, say, see, both individuals deleted some searches. It's not unique to McCabe. Even without specifics, just planting that seed could counter the narrative that only McCabe was deleting things.
So try to muddy the waters a bit. It sounds like this cross-examination had some really pivotal moments. What were the absolute key turning points we covered?
I'd say first, the admission that the May 2022 report wasn't truly the full data image. That's big.
Definitely. What else?
Second, confirming those how long to die searches and nailing down their times right next to the Brian Albert call.
Yeah, that timing is hard to ignore.
Third, the witness actually confirming, yes, a call record was marked as deleted from McCabe's log at 6:23 a.m.
Confirmation is key.
Fourth, the discovery, via the newer software, of those 2 deleted answered calls to her sister, Coco, adds another layer.
Right, more deletions.
Fifth, that really stark contrast, the witness stating definitively no calls were deleted from Karen Reed's phone that morning.
That comparison is powerful. Anything else?
And finally, maybe sixth, the witness acknowledging finding a few deleted Google searches on Reed's phone later in the afternoon, even if the details were missing. It adds a slight wrinkle.
Each one of those feels like it could shift perceptions, couldn't it? Little bombshells in the testimony.
Potentially, yes. They create questions and challenge the established narrative.
Now, we need to remember, this is just based on a transcript excerpt. It's not the whole trial. Did this source give any final conclusion or verdict?
No, absolutely not. The transcript we're looking at cuts off mid-cross-examination. The legal proceedings are far from over, so there's no verdict here.
Right. Important context. So, stepping back from the specifics, what's the big takeaway from this deep dive into the digital forensics part of the case?
For me, it really highlights just how incredibly complex and, frankly, messy digital evidence can be in court.
Messy how?
Well, you have issues of deleted data. Can it be recovered? What does the deletion mean? Then there's the whole process of disclosure. When was data shared? Was it complete? Was it timely?
All those delays and piecemeal reports we talked about.
Exactly. And discrepancies between what different tools find or what different reports show. And the contrast here between the activity reported on McCabe's phone versus Reed's phone, it just shows how these digital breadcrumbs can become central points of argument.
They raise huge questions about timelines, actions, even intentions.
Precisely. The differing accounts of deletions really invite intense scrutiny.
It's like a tangled web of deleted data and unanswered calls. Makes you wonder what else might still be hidden in those digital footprints from that night.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. If digital evidence can be recovered and analyzed in such incredible detail, even deleted stuff, what does that ultimately tell us about how reliable human memory is, or about the narratives we build around events? How does this digital truth stack up against personal accounts?